cows and heifers you need. And then that standardized information is what really allows us to support the software and for people to utilize it more efficiently across multiple farms. In the case of a consultant, for example, they don't have to worry about how information is stored so much simply because it's all stored the same way. So we refer to the reporting system as Bovi Insights. I will have many reports that highlight the group by feature. It really allows you to compare different groups of animals, pen performance, even down to or up to a pen level. And then that traceability component, when we've adopted the mobile app, we gain that information of when things are actually happening. The technician and timestamp, for instance, is on every completed event, and we can find out what our true compliance is. What time are generate shots completed the day before we do an BoviSync program? What is our compliance on early shots and a protocol? In the case of vaccines, so when people get introduced to the app, when a farm starts using a software or a consultant has to get information, I often point them to the report map. The report map is a graphical interface that allows you to go into different categories related to information on a dairy. And in those categories, we've built reports. These links are actual web pages that have settings for reports. They can be loaded in any farm. So when you create a report in BoviSync or save a report, it's really just the settings you're saving, and then you can load that report on any farm. So in this example, we have a conception rate by service. This is actual events. So if we click the plus button on the left side, we will be able to see the actual breeding events tied to those events. So in BoviSync, permissions are granted by the admins on the farm. So you have to have admin permission to actually see who has access and grant access to the farm. The admin is the only one that can edit protocols as well. Account permission is the write permission, so you have the ability to enter events on animals. And then there's the read permission, where you can just run reports. Both read and write can look into the protocols, so they have that ability to go in and see what the protocols are and how they run and are set up. And then we have the move permission in the case of a heifer grower. They have the ability to move animals back to a farm. All accounts are free, so the subscription's at the farm level, and you can create an account for free. When you log into BoviSync, you have the option to choose any farms that you have permission to, and you have the ability to just log into that single location. You have the ability to log in by owner, which allows you to see all the animals that belong to that farm. So we went back to the report map, and we're going to load a simple animal report, which means the individual rows underlying this report are actually animals on the farm. In this case, they're grouped by lactation group, and we have some parameters for those individual lactation groups. So the graph here is obviously just a quick overview of the repro status of those different groups. And we're going to add the owner column. So adding an owner is simple as going up to add a column, typing in the item. If you couldn't find the item you want, you click the plus button. It's a little bit more in depth as a search tool. Now we've loaded the owner column. It's just giving us a simple count of animals in each lactation group. And we're going to change the grouping in this report. So a lot of getting started and getting comfort with the reports is as simple as going to report map, finding something that's close to what you want, and then modifying the report. If we were to go click the share button at the top to the right of the date, the little icon, it would create a link to these report settings. Anyone who got that link would be able to load this report that's grouped by owner right now. So this is a conception rate by reason report. So we're back to an event report. It's grouped by owner and event number. And I was doing some filtering there. We're going to use the quick filter at the top. Now it's grouped by lactation 1. And now we're going to update the categories or the report to just be lactation groups 2 and 3. And now we're going to change the report to breeding reason. There isn't any limitation to the amount of grouping you can do, except how many records you actually have in each bucket at the end. There's now owners and breeding reason. Again, if we click share, we'd have the ability to share this report at the current settings, and whoever clicked that link would load this report as it is. The dates at the top, those are generally set up to be relative dates. So 90 days in the past to 35 days ago, for instance, and those date ranges can be modified to whatever your desired range is. Here's a report that was created for a financial reporting at the end of the month. The farm needed to do an inventory and they needed to fill out a form that had specific groupings for animals and heifers. So we were able to create a custom item inside the report. So in BoviSync, there is the ability to create custom items. We have a large library of existing items, but we run into situations where people need something very specific and we can create an item inside the report. And it's just part of the report. So when we share that with somebody, they'll be able to see that item. So in this case, we're just looking at pregnant animals. So that's the number of animals and status of those animals in those individual groups. And we can see where those animals are located. So in the case of moving cows, for instance, this would be helpful to find cows that you might want to move in certain categories, which is an example of how you can iterate with the report system. Oh, so the question is, can you sync to ID and pen scoring? Is that sync somewhere else? Steve, are you referring to the ID of the user? So oftentimes when you want to evaluate the performance of animals, cohorts are a great way to do that, specifically time-based cohorts. So we're going to look at some cohorts that might be useful for looking at transition cows and calves. So in this report here that we've created, we have grouped, get to Steve after this, the transition report card. We've grouped animals by the week they've freshened and lactation group, and we've built items out to describe the performance of that animal cohort. And so we can do a quick comparison of the different week cohorts of freshening. We could easily change that to the month they calved, which would give us a year and month. And we can see the early lactation milk performance, days in close-up. We've even have the percentage of animals that were in the close-up group less than 14 days. And then we carried out sold and died, and then transition count at the end, where we've grouped all those metabolic and transition issues related to cows into one column, so we have one number to compare between them. So we're not having to describe whether a farm does RPs or metritis more often. We're really just trying to get a snapshot of those transition cows. And again, this report could be shared. The link at the top there, if we click that now, it would load this report in whatever farm I'm logged into on my computer. Pen scoring. Pen scoring is really about that quick recording of information at a pen level. In the case of individual ID animals, we have a lot of those items. Body condition score, for instance, we can record that on an individual animal basis, and we can kick off processes from that. If we want to track that, we could do locomotion scoring using the lameness event. So there are different ways to tie it back to the ID of a cow. We just introduced the pen scoring feature as a add-on for consultants that do that, so we can have that inside our app. So we've taken the transition report and we have grouped it by lactation group and transition count. So it's really the same underlying criteria, but now we're comparing that milk week 4 average between those lactation groups and the transition count. So these columns are really based on the performance of cows, and obviously not surprisingly, there's an impact on animals depending on the number of transition issues they have on milk production. But this again is a preloaded report, and we can click the link and go that direction. Now we take the cohorts across the bottom axis of this graph, and we are comparing milk week 4 average over time. So we can see if there are any trends in our fresh cows. That milk week 4 obviously gives us a standardized way to compare milk performance of cohorts to ones in the recent past to farther out. So that's a quick way to do that. And again, we've clicked the share button at the top to get a report link, and it will load this report. This is applying the same logic as we used in the transition cow report to births. So now we're looking at the performance of calves in our heifer program, and we're asking questions about the performance of those animals born in a certain month. For example, in June of 2020 on this herd, they had an uptick in pneumonia, where we had 23.5% of the animals get diagnosed with pneumonia and a similarly high number of scours. And we can take it out even to the number of animals that were called below 120 days or whatever cutoff you want to. We can create that, and we can actually drill into the information and look at those individual animals if we so choose.